In this week's episode of Economics Weekly, I'm going to briefly talk about the economic news and help you catch up with what's going on at the moment. The two big issues of the day are President Trump's tariffs and the budget in South Africa. So on the tariff side, it's been quiet since the announcement of the so-called reciprocal tariffs and then the 90-day postponement that the president announced shortly afterwards. The tariffs that are currently in place are the ones on China, and US and China are starting with negotiations pretty soon. We'll see how that goes. President Trump has already indicated that he's not negotiating, he's dictating terms. We'll have to see who blinks first. In the other negotiations that have been taking place, a number of countries have already met with US representatives. The outcome is sort of uncertain. The Japanese, for example, said that they're not quite sure what the US wants, and they went home without any deal. Currently, there are no new trade deals that have to pass through the US Congress, and everything is still ongoing. For South Africa, the only impact is the 10% tariff rate that the US is levying on basically almost all imports into the US, aside from the 25% on automotive parts and components, and then all the other specific tariffs levied on Canada and Mexico. So in our case, it seems like the citrus exporters are continuing with shipping their exports for this season. And the auto manufacturers have said that they haven't felt the impact yet. They are still completing old orders and expect to see the impact in June or July. In their case, it's a story of a decrease in demand in the US. As these tariffs get added to the price of cars in the US, the demand is going to decrease, and we'll probably see that in the demand for components from South Africa. Now, a lot of the talk about this is to say exporters should try and pivot and find new markets. In the case of our agricultural exports, a lot of which goes to the US, that might be easier to do than in the case of the automotive exports. Oranges can be eaten anywhere and wine can be drunk in other countries. But when you're producing automotive components, it's for a specific company in a global value chain. And if their sales are less, or your cost has become significantly higher, we'll see that impact on the South African sector and specifically on the Eastern Cape towards the middle of this year. What will happen after the 90 days is over? No one knows. We'll have to wait and see. It's a huge source of uncertainty in the world economy. I think related to that, almost all international agencies have been revising down their economic growth forecasts for this year. Moody's came out revising South Africa's growth forecast down to 1.5%. We know that the IMF has already said they think we're only going to be able to grow at 1% this year. Domestically, we're looking forward to Budget 3.0. It's up for the 21st of May. The minister is going to make a third attempt at passing a budget, this time without any VAT rate increases. The interesting part is that he now needs to fill a gap in his funding model. For this year, it's around 13.5 billion rand, which is not going to be too tricky because SARS has already collected about 10 billion rand more than they initially budgeted. So he'll be able to plug the hole this year. But over the 3-year period of the medium-term framework, it's 75 billion rand. And for that, you really need to make some serious cuts. I expect that they're not going to try and make those cuts before the 21st of May. They'll finish up this year's budget, and then everything else we'll see the result of in November. When it comes to these cuts, they are not going to be straightforward. The regular public are frequently say, well, just cut the blue light brigades. But VIP protection over the 3-year period would be between 1 and 2 billion rand, which still leaves you a lot of money that you need to find if you're financing 75 billion rand. There are many other examples. If you limit the increase in the government's wage bill to only the inflation rate, and you don't give an above inflation increase, that saves you about 7 billion. If you limit the increase in grants to only the inflation rate, that saves less than 2 billion. So these are small amounts, and to really fill the gap on that 75 billion, the minister will either have to forgo on some of his new spending plans, some of that he proposed in the very first budget documents, or he will have to seriously cut other programs to be able to afford those new spending plans. We'll have to wait and see what this means for the Government of National Unity and how the market is going to digest a new budget. Stay tuned, please like, comment, and share, and I'll see you again soon.